What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Riff. Today, we are going to talk about the coveted Dallas Arbiter Fuzz Face. Fuzz faces in general. It's one of my absolute staples and one of my favorite pedals to use. All of my heroes have used them, and there's so many hidden, not even hidden, there's just so many available amazing tones on tap, and some of my favorite recordings, had a fuzz face grace it. So we're gonna get into it. We're gonna talk about them. I have quite a few old ones, and I have a few not so old ones that I really get some great tone out of, and I'm gonna explain those to you. Fuzz face was a simple design. It's probably the simplest circuit to modify. Simplest circuits made, and also one of the simplest circuits to modify. A fuzz face circuit relies heavy on the transistor function, the transistors working together, and the matched transistors and the sensitivity of the transistors together. These factors will give you a beautiful fuzz tone, a creamy fuzz tone, and these factors can also give you a gated, more robotic kind of fuzz tone. I myself prefer a woofy fuzz in the neck position, and I like my bridge tone to cut through, and I've been lucky to find the ones that do that for me. Probably one of the first true bypass pedals. So for mid and late 60s, that was a really cool thing, I see a picture all the time of Jimmy at Woodstock, and it says, Jimi Hendrix didn't care about true bypass, but actually the fuzz face is a true bypass pedal. So I'll get into the ones I have, and we can talk a little more about it. This is a 1966 NKT275 germanium. This is, in my eyes, the holy grail of fuzz pedals. Not this one, I'm saying, but the NKT275, the germanium transistor. That's the name of the transistor. This is by far the one. These are very temperamental with heat. They do act up, and they do give you problems as they start getting banged around. But when they're working and when they're on, they're incredible. This one I was lucky enough to get came out of I want to say New Orleans, and I got a great deal on it. A couple of friends hit me to it. It has one change capacitor, but I put a new old stock capacitor back in it. So technically it is 100% original, just with the capacitor change. I can't really say that because that wouldn't feel right. The switch sometimes acts up, but I do not want to change it because, again, it is all there. But it's a great pedal, and I'm going to play some audio later, and you'll be able to hear it. I'm going to use this one, and it's pretty wild. It's one of my favorites. Big swooping fat tone where in the neck position it almost disappears. It's so big and boomy, and then when you go to the bridge, it just sings, and I love it. I love this. I love the color, and you get the basic, one of the first logos, the Arbiter England. It's a great pedal. You know what I mean? So moving over a few years later to combat the heat issues with the germanium fuzz pedals, they started using silicon transistors. This is a BC183L, a BC183L, favored by Eric Johnson. David Gilmour did use them too. This is another singing, and you'd be surprised, this one in the neck position sounds a lot like a germanium. It's a little brighter. The BC183 transistors are naturally more gainy, so this one has a little more bite to it, a little more aggression, feedback like a champ. It does everything I want, and I don't gig out with these too much because I'm afraid of something happening to them, and I'm just realizing as I'm looking through my pedals, this is my only silicon fuzz. So fuzz builders out there, if you would be so kind as to hook a poor fella up with badass silicon fuzz face copy, I would be happy. Moving on, this is 67 from the Pot Dates. They call it a treble and bass face, and basically this acts as almost, I want to say, a range master and a bass boost, but it allows you to trim how much treble and how much bass you want into your tone. So this stacked up with one of these, stack them together, is amazing. I found out the other day when testing it out. And this is pretty much the same kind of circuit. This one has silicon transistors in it. And like I said, the ability to be able to shape your tone with these, you can trim the treble in and out, and you can trim the amount of bass in and out, and then you can blend the two together, which I find really, really helpful. You can almost get this to make if you're playing through a Fender amp, you can almost get your Fender amp to sound like a really cranked up super lead, which is great for those, Hendrix tones and all those cream tones, all those tones from the 60s and 70s that we fell in love with, This one is really cool, and I'm glad to have all three of them in the same color because I'm a geek like that, For my live stuff, I like to use, this is the first run Cesar Diaz Texas square faces. Cesar Diaz was a genius when it came to amp modifications and apparently pedal building. This is Cesar's own twist on a fuzz face. He also helped correct some of the heat temperament issues while still keeping this germanium. These are used by guys like Stevie Ray Vaughan, G.E. Smith, Bob Dylan's gang, Bob Dylan's guitar player, Charlie Sexton, I'm sure had a Diaz Fuzz on the board. Philip Sace is an advocate for these, and these have become popular over the last few years thanks to Philip pushing Cesar Diaz's work. I have a few friends that have these, and they are great. This one is, like I said, an early one. It's got no 9-volt spot. It has some carpet inside of it, thanks Cesar, and it's just beautiful. It's a beautiful pedal. Much louder, which fuzz face users, when you're playing at bedroom volumes, will have a problem with. This is much, much louder, cuts through, and this sounds like a vintage fuzz face just on steroids, just amped right up. And also, this is another cool germanium. Again, I don't have any silicons, I only have the one. But this is a real early prototype full tone fuzz, the 69. This is a super early one. It's number 135, and this to me sounds best with the volume and the fuzz on 10 all the way up, the tone somewhere in the middle like that. That's where this sounds best, and it almost has a great overdrive tone to it. Only when you're really pushing it through a hot amp can you get this to be more milky and sing like a fuzz face would and be kind of woofy. But I like the fact that it does what it does do, because it provides me with a whole bunch of different tones, much different than all the other ones I've shown so far. And also, this one is a very early MJM London fuzz. This is another NKT 275 pedal. This one does sometimes act up in the heat, and sometimes it doesn't. Again, it is louder. It's super loud. I always run my fuzz pedals on the volume all the way up, and I'll explain to you why I do that in a minute. But yeah, this is an amazing one too. This is great. And I'll throw this one and the Diaz in my gig bag, and if one of them gives me a hard time, I'll just switch over. And I usually get through the night, no issues. You know what I mean? I'm a big fan of this one for live stuff. So you get your fuzz face, and you have your deluxe reverb, and you have your deluxe reverb on, say, 2, and it's loud. Just the amp alone, it's piercing your ears, and you plug that fuzz face in, and no matter what you do, you can't get that killer tone you're looking for out of it. Well, a lot of the issue is the fuzz face circuit was so simple. It's not going to provide any buffer, any preamp, any kind of magic to your tone. That is meant to go through a turned up amp. That's not meant to be played at bedroom volumes, at 9 o'clock at night while your parents are in bed. It's not gonna give you those tones that you're after, those tones that you've heard on the record, those tones that turned you on or maybe swayed you to get a fuzz face. It's not gonna do that. It's definitely meant for, the louder the amp, the better the fuzz face is gonna work. That's my take from it. And one of the things that I do to help aid that when you can't take a 100-watt Marshall and put it on 10 in a small club is I increase, there's a resistor in there that you can increase, and it'll increase the level or the volume of the pedal overall. So that way, if I have more volume, I can manipulate those two knobs and blend it to almost give me what I'm looking for turned up when I'm not turned up. That's a trick that I do sometimes. And usually when I'm gigging, I will leave the fuzz face on for most of the night. I will leave it on and play right through it, and I'll use my volume knob on my guitar, and I'll just keep, little tiny increments, give me that really sparkly, say, Stevie Ray Vaughan Tin Pan Alley kind of tone. And you can go a little more and you get that of really good, say Jimi Hendrix Killing Floor kind of thing. You know what I mean? And you can even get, if the volume is just right, you can get these singing lines, just vibratoing lines up and down the neck, and these just sounds like a violin, and it's working right. It works great with the delay if you get the right delay with the fuzz. But what I do, one of the tricks I do is I use if this was a volume pot of your guitar, I use a treble bleed. Much debate about these. This sounds good. This doesn't sound good. I know what works for me and for my gear, and I use this one. This value is and it's the shit. I get. It's no secret. You've all heard my tone. I feel like I sound decent for what I have. And this aids in my rolled off tones. It also, with the fuzz unplugged, with the fuzz out of the circuit, not working, it also reduces the bass when you start turning down on Stratocasters, and you still get that chimey, poppy, clean tone coming through. So I would suggest anybody who is an avid fuzz face user or wants to be a fuzz face user is to experiment with treble bleed circuits, and try a bunch of different values, and sit there and really see how much real estate you can get out of this pot. And I'm talking about moving it, just one little bit, and you get great tone, great tone, great tone. There's so many different possibilities, So, I would a fuzz face is a tough one to wrestle, but once you get it, it becomes something you can't live without, and you need it all the time. You know what I mean? I love gigging with it. I love knowing it's there, because I can be as creamy and as loud and as overdriven whenever I want, and it's always right there at my finger. All I got to do is turn the volume up all the way, and all of a sudden I'm in, house burning down land. So I'm grateful for that. With the Diaz paired up with the treble bleed, you get the Stevie Ray Vaughan, blues, slow blues kind of Leave My Little Girl Alone tone, and it is. I'm obviously a huge Stevie fan. You can tell in my playing. I try to do the best I can to recreate some of that stuff. And it just gives me that tone, and I love it. And I gig with this one just because of that. It's just incredible. And this is, there's not a lot of tone secret to it. It's really just about being comfortable with your gear and knowing it inside and out, and spending time with it, and really learning what it could do for you. And on the Strat, so when I'm playing, like I said, I'm all the way up here, and that'll be, fuzz on kill. But all I got to do is keep doing this. I want to play some rhythm, and I just back it down a little bit, and I have it all right there. So the more I just keep manipulating this knob, I'm golden. Also, using a treble bleed, using the treble bleed will aid in your wah-wah and fuzz face working well together or not. For a long time, I always put the fuzz face I always put the wah-wah before the fuzz. And I started experimenting, and I realized that with this treble bleed, I could get a really wet, crying wah-wah tone if I put, plugged into the fuzz first, then the wah, a couple of my rest of my effects, and then to the amp. And just backing down, so if I was at full volume and you click the wah on, you're going to get some oscillation, and that's just known that we get that. It doesn't really cut through, and you don't really get that pronounced wah wah work. But just backing the volume down with a treble bleed on there, you get this real, this beautiful, milky, juicy, just, there's so many adjectives you can say, but this insane wah wah tone. It cries, and it does everything for me. So I start using, I plug into the fuzz face first, because the fuzz face or the fuzz circuit is super sensitive to seeing the pickups. It wants to see the single coils first. So my advice to somebody is, Forget what Jimi Hendrix did. Forget what the next guy on Instagram does. Forget this or that or what you've seen or what somebody says has to be a certain way. And I would just try it. You know, it doesn't have to be sold, but plug your guitar into the fuzz face and then into the wah, and you know, experiment with just moving your volume knob and listen to the range of tones you get. It's amazing. You know, you can do whatever you want. The 66 fuzz face, the germanium one, I plugged into that first, and then I plugged into the Dunlop Cheese Wedge Octavio. Out of that, I plug into the wah-wah. And then out of the wah, I plug into the Mega Vibe, the Univibe pedal. Out of the Univibe, I go into the Jesse Davey King Tone Duelist. From the Duelist, I go to the Line 6 delay. I like that because it has 3 different delays that I can pick from. And then I go into a tuner, and then it's out to my Custom by Cougar signature head with 2 12 JBLs. And that's pretty much it. The rest is just, you know, it is what it is. Whatever sound you get is the sound you get, and you know, keep in mind too, what works for me may not work for you, and these are just suggestions, and I'm just sharing with you what I like to use. You know, your favorite pedal may sound, you know, may not be pleasing through my rig, but through yours it sounds magical, and that's really all that matters. So again, if anybody has any suggestions on a fuzz to try, I'm always looking to try new fuzzes, and I'm always geeking out over fuzz face pedals. So leave them in the comments below and let me know what I should check out. And again, thank you guys, everybody, for subscribing in the last few weeks. The subscribe list has jumped up quite a bit, so I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the sharing, all the comments, all the interaction. Everybody's been so kind for the most part, leaving nice things. So it really means a lot because, you know, basically all we're doing is just talking about guitar stuff. And it's fun to get a bunch of people together and talk about that. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for sharing. Look forward to another video real soon, and we'll catch you. Peace. So with using a germanium, I'll just use my volume knob a lot to color a lot of the sound. So, you know, this is fuzz on. But there's so many different tones you can get, you know, just by using the volume knob. I have the fuzz set full and I have the volume set full and the fuzz at about halfway. But I'll just give you a run through the different colors, you know.